Go.
Well, we have a group presentation for you today. My name is Charlie Errico. I'm at Northern Virginia Community College, and I'm chair of the Chancellor's Faculty Advisory Committee. And so it might be good to just let you know what the Chancellor's Faculty Advisory Committee is. It's a committee that represents all 23 of the community colleges. Each community college has one representative and one vote. Very democratic in a way, but tiny little Eastern Shore has the same vote as the mammoth Northern Virginia Community College. But the good news is we all have a great relationship with each other, and we have a great collegial type of relationship that works with the Chancellor. So bottom line, we are the voice of the faculty at the 23 community colleges. And we meet with the Chancellor and his staff, the Vice Chancellors and several other members of their staff, twice a year. Once in the fall semester, usually in November, and once in the spring semester in April. And we just met last week, so this is a very appropriate time to talk to you. And we deal with issues that are system-wide, not campus or college-wide. So if you come into the room and you're upset with your president or your dean, will you keep that to yourself? We're interested only in issues, not that that's not important, but we're only interested in issues that affect all of the 23 community colleges, and believe me, there are plenty of issues to keep us busy there. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of introduce some of the issues that we talked about last week. Then I'm going to have our representatives introduce themselves. We've got 11 of the 23 CFAC representatives with us. And when they introduce themselves, they can tell you what college they represent and maybe talk a little bit about an issue that they felt is important to them. And we want to hear your voice because we are your representatives. And so it's good for you to know who your CFAC representative is at your individual campus. If they're not here in this room and you don't know who they are, see me afterwards and I'll let you know who that person is. And that's the person that you would bring issues to, and then we put together the agenda with the Chancellor twice a year, although we're talking with him and his staff almost constantly. And it's been a great relationship. I think they enjoy talking to us because, let's face it, they don't see faculty all that much. And we have some issues that are very much of concern to us. And they need to know it. And that's the way with positive, collegial, respectful communication we can get things done. And so just very briefly, I narrowed this list down. Here were some of the issues that we felt were most important, and we talked about them last week in Richmond. The big issue is enrollment and retention. I'm not telling you anything that you're not already aware of. There's really kind of a perfect storm in the VCCS. We've got a decreased budget. At the same time, we have falling enrollment. And what that has meant for especially the smaller colleges, some reductions in force. And a lot of pressure put on faculty members at those smaller colleges. 2 years ago, it was just the smaller colleges. In the last year, Tidewater and Reynolds have also faced some major reductions and some issues. And so what we wanted to know is what we could do as a faculty to help our colleagues. And we tossed around a lot of issues. Here's an issue that we felt might be helpful. If a college has an opening, any of the 23 colleges has an opening in a position, and that position has not yet been advertised, then it is possible for a faculty member who has been RIF'd to transfer to another college that has an opening in his or her discipline. Now, it has to be before it is advertised, and there is a window. At Nova, usually we know what positions we're going to have open in January, and we don't advertise them until March or April. Now, it's not a slam dunk. The president of the receiving college has to agree that they want that individual to be transferred into her or his college. Once the job is advertised, then the person who has been RIF'd or maybe just wants to transfer to another college can still apply, but it's open competition. So what we're going to ask ASAC when they meet, I think on June 1 and 2, is to request of the presidents that they let the VCCS know what positions are open and will be advertised at a certain date, and circulate that among those faculty members who feel that they might want to transfer to another college. That's one of the few things that we can do. The other thing that we can do, and this has been a CFAC initiative about 2 years ago, it hasn't really caught on as much as I think we would like, is there's something called a phased retirement program. I don't know if you've heard that or not, but a faculty member who is teaching a full load in the past has had a choice. If it's a senior faculty member, they can either continue to teach a full load or they can retire. And so CFAC came up with what I thought was a pretty good proposal that is a slower off-ramp to retirement. And what that means is a faculty member at an institution, a senior faculty member, maybe they're just not ready to retire, but they're also not ready to teach that very hard 30 hours an academic year. So they can cut from 100% to 80% or even 60%. They're still considered full-time faculty, but they're only teaching a 60% load, and they can do that up to the final 3 years before they fully retire. I think, and the CFAC I think will reinforce this, that it's kind of a win-win situation in the sense that a faculty member, and we've had several take advantage of it, has remained in the system. And we have institutional memory, and that person is feeling good about cutting from 100% to 60%. And there's very few things that the administration and the faculty totally agree on, but most presidents have liked it also, because it means that if a faculty member going from 100% to 60% is going from 10 courses to 6 courses, they're saving money on those 4 courses that that faculty member is giving up. And they can still backfill with adjuncts. I'll give you an example. And this, I'm not giving away any secrets because this is a good friend of mine at Nova who took advantage of it. His name is Rob Como, and he's in English. Rob's been around for a long time, and he was earning $90,000 as a 9-month teaching faculty. 10 courses, that means $9,000 a course. He went from 100, from 10 courses down to 6, and that saved, I'm not an accountant, that saved the college $36,000. They backfilled with adjuncts, those 4 courses, on the average of $3,000 per adjunct. So help me out, 36 minus 12 is a savings to the college of, I think, $24,000. And so in that way, a senior faculty member could be in phased retirement, and that might save a job for a junior faculty member. So we have been trying to brainstorm ways that we can help faculty at smaller institutions that are facing some major financial problems. And we want to continue to do that and get your advice about other things that we can do. Very quickly, we also talked about dual enrollment. 2 issues with dual enrollment. The big issue is at many institutions, the class that's being taught at the high school does not contain the same rigor as the class that's taught on campus. And we felt as a group that we were doing high school students absolutely no favor by giving them a watered-down course with a different textbook and a different syllabus and a different grading policy. So CFAC was very concerned that dual enrollment classes at the high school should be based on the same text and the same syllabus and have the same rigor as those classes taught on campus. A second thing is the dual enrollment students are not, after they finish, enrolling at the community colleges. And we thought that one way that we might increase enrollment is to encourage those dual enrollment students, after they've taken that rigorous class at the high school, to then move on to Mountain Empire, Paul Camp, Nova, and that might increase our enrollment. We talked a lot about that. Parental leave is something that we felt strongly about, and we might just have to wear the system down on this one. Right now, there is no maternity leave in our system for staff or faculty. Now, we can only deal with faculty issues. So we found a policy that George Mason passed last year, and it was parental leave. And the parental leave policy at George Mason, and we'd like to see the same thing within the VCCS, says that if you're having a baby or adopting a baby, you can take a full semester off with pay or a whole year off with half pay. And that applies to both the mother and the father. We think it's a great policy. The administration did not think it was so great because the timing with the budget is not appropriate, but that might change in the future. And we also thought that with so many baby boomers retiring in the next 4 or 5 years, if we had a good, solid maternity leave policy, a parental leave policy, then that might be an enticement for new faculty to apply for open positions. So we talked a little bit about that. And finally, security and safety with students and staff has been a constant issue. We want to make sure all of our colleges are safe havens for our faculty, staff, and students. That's not just hurricane and tornado drills. On my campus, we had an active shooter about 5 or 6 years ago. At Nova, there's also a lot of concern for our undocumented students who are very fearful about the political atmosphere. And we want to do our very best to make sure that we have their backs. And so I just carved out some of the major issues. We want to get your feedback on those, and also any other things that you want us to deal with, because we're your representatives. So what I'd like to do is maybe start with Jen, and then have everybody introduce themselves, maybe say what college they're from, and anything else you want to talk about that I haven't covered, or maybe you could cover better.
So I'm Jen Schaefer. I'm at Lord Fairfax. I've been on CFAC for not quite 8 years. I'm currently the secretary of CFAC, so I'm going to be taking notes of questions or concerns that you all have as we go on here. One thing that is of concern to our faculty, specifically that I've raised at the system level and we're hoping for progress on, is the science lab load and credit load, and the how you interpret the policy related to credit hours and contact hours. And there is a group at ASAC, the vice presidents, who are starting to look at this, and we have been very vocal about wanting faculty to be involved in those discussions. And I like to say, as far as my CFAC role goes, and I've said this directly to the Chancellor before as well, that my mission is to be the mouthpiece for my faculty. So when I really, get in their face a little bit in Richmond to raise an issue, it's just because that's my role. I am supposed to be advocating for the concerns of my faculty at my college. So I think all of us understand that. I think the system office understands that as well, and they welcome that feedback and participation from us.
I'm Tondalea Van Leer, and I'm at Dabney Lancaster, and I think as I was listening to Charles go over the recent points, one of the big things that has been a concern for us has been our dual enrollment, the level of rigor, and I will say that I'm pleased that the Chancellor's office, specifically Sharon Morrissey, is a good support, for making sure that we are doing right by those high school students, that they have what they need when they leave high school in order to be successful, whether they come to us or at a four-year school, that they are leaving with those skills necessary. So I think that support from Richmond is there, and I encourage all colleges to look into that, especially if there's an issue there. But that was one of the things that was the heartbeat for us.
Hi, I'm Linda Pruitt. I'm from the Eastern Shore. We are the smallest community college within the system. We have about 16 or 17 full-time faculty. So my vote on CFAC is very powerful since, as Charlie mentioned, my vote equals the same as Nova's vote. This is my first year on CFAC, and what a great learning experience. I have learned so much this year. It's just unreal. The issues that's already been mentioned are issues on my campus as well. We are very concerned about our enrollment because our enrollment is very down. If we lose 10 to 15 students with our percentages of students in the classes, that's huge. That's huge. We have not lost any faculty. We have lost staff. But we are very concerned what's going to happen next week or the next week or the following as to what's going to happen. We already have single faculty departments, so in some situations that means loss of programs. So you take away programs, you further take away students, and you just get into a downhill spiral. You know, where does that spiral end? So we are very concerned that we do not want to lose programs. We want to keep what we have, and are willing to make sacrifices in order to keep those programs.
Hello, my name is Karol Car, and I am one of the faculty members at John Tyler Community College. I work on the Chester campus. I've been on CFAC for approximately 3 years. In my first year, I began working with Dr. Chris Lee, with HR to develop or participate in the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. I'm happy to say that as a result of that, we provided several recommendations to the Chancellor. He's put together a report, as many of you all have known, regarding that, and put forth several diversity and inclusion initiatives. Additionally, we have a Chief Diversity Officer as well. Additionally, we also, or hopefully, each of the 23 colleges now has a diversity plan in place. I hope you do know about that particular plan at your college as well. Most of the colleges have put together and have functional diversity and inclusion advisory councils. I hope you know about those as well. And finally, I believe October 5th of last year, the VCCS offered its first, or if you will, put on its first diversity and inclusion and student success workshop, which several colleges from the VCCS in essence shared their wares or their initiatives that they're putting forth to expand our understanding and embrace inclusiveness in the system office. And it's been a pleasure to see that develop just over the course of 3 years.
Hello, my name is Ellen Hajos, and I'm with Tidewater. I got involved with CFAC a little over 2 years ago with the faculty evaluation plan, and we were able to get the best practices committee together and work on some of the changes involved with that, which I think has improved that policy. So that was what we did there. Currently, I think about 20% of the decrease in enrollment is directly at Tidewater. The entire VCCS drop, 20% of that is Tidewater. So that is our current concern right now.
I've got one down here. I got this. I'm Marty Zahn. I'm from Thomas Nelson Community College. I've been involved with this for about 3 semesters now. I've been in the VCCS for 22 years, and it's really been one of the most enjoyable things that I've done in the VCCS. It's a wonderful group to work with, but what you find out is there is so much happening in the VCCS that never, ever filters its way down to the faculty. I don't know where it gets stopped, whether it's at the vice president or the deans, but we just don't know all of the things that are going on, at least at our school. And it's the minutes that Jen puts together have been absolutely wonderful as far as covering everything. And I get that out. Let people see what's happening, because one of the things that bothers me more almost than anything else is the lack of, I won't say faculty input, but the lack of requests for faculty input in administrative decisions. That's so often really not done. CFAC really tries very hard to provide that. The Chancellor does listen, and you can say things pretty strongly to him. He does not get upset about it. He listens, and he needs to know. Okay, we were talking. We mentioned the evaluation system. This is still a problem at our school, getting it done right. And you know, told them, I said, if the faculty don't trust their deans, then you have a problem. And there's still an element of that at our school. They do not trust the deans are going to treat them well. And then it goes all the way on up from there. So he needs to hear those things. I don't know what he says to presidents, okay? You know, I do know he said that the quickest way to a president's heart is money. And so we have a program now, and several places do, with the student pays 1/3 tuition, and then we don't get the other 1/3 until they get their certificate, and you don't get the other 1/3 until they get licensed. And he said that gets their attention. Okay, it works. So I don't know what all he talks about. I really enjoy working with this. It's been one of the most enjoyable things I've done in the VCCS because we have a really wonderful group of people on faculties, and they need to be taken care of by the administration. And at some point, we ought to be the customer of the administrators rather than the other way around. I don't know if I will live to see that. But.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. I am Brian Wright. I'm the representative from Southwest Virginia Community College. And I just have to say that other than my time in my classroom, this is probably the thing that gives me the most pride with working with the VCCS is being part of a system and working with the 23 schools. My vice president always says, Dr. Barbara Fuller always says, if you want to know something, ask CFAC. And I can say that's probably true. The Chancellor and his staff, Dr. Morrissey, Donna Van Cleve, Chris Lee, they all sit down with us and they tell us just about anything we want to know, within reason, of course. And so that is one of the greatest things I think that we can do. As to the issue of safety, I remember a few years ago, because I'm not quite a Vicki Taylor, but I've been around for quite a while. I remember sitting right before the Chancellor and telling him, we do not feel safe on our campus. And he listened. And a little bit later that day, Dr. Morrissey came to me and she said, I want you to know, Dr. Dubois heard you today. And it was not long after that that they announced that every campus would be having an active shooter drill. So I feel like that we do a very good job, or at least we're in the position to do a very good job, and we do the best that we can.
Hello, I'm Sharon Freeman, Southside Virginia Community College. We are on our third RIF. We just got into faculty. Normally it's been staff, so we were just told faculty were programs, those kinds of things. Our enrollment is down. We're the largest service area. Over the past 2 years, we're down 30% enrollment. So retention and enrollment are huge for us. One of the issues of concern that I brought forward with Charlie that we addressed was, is there somewhere that our faculty who have been RIF'd can go? And that's when we discovered and we looked into a possible transfer. We have great faculty. We don't want to lose them, but our enrollment says that this is just what we have to do. So we're right behind Charlie. Any suggestions on how to handle the RIFs, and maybe even depending on enrollment coming, we have another one. So this is the place that your concerns are heard. They are. And thank you all for your support, too.
Hello, I'm Bethany Arnold, and I'm from Mountain Empire. And one topic of discussion, at least at Mountain Empire, and I'm sure at every other college, is always developmental education and especially testing. So one thing I've really appreciated about CFAC is that we do learn about, say, multiple measures for placement. We get to hear about that and ask Dr. Morrissey about it and have a little bit of input. That way we can take it back to our colleges and handle it in the best way possible. So I've really appreciated that type of discussion regarding policies kind of before they start coming down a little bit more. One other great thing about CFAC is we say we deal with VCCS-wide issues. And the thing is, oftentimes we're not sure if they're VCCS-wide issues. So one thing that we do a lot is we don't really just meet in April and November. We talk all the time. So we'll send an email out to each other and say, hey, do you guys do this on your campus? Or what's your policy on this? And sometimes we all handle it the exact same way, but sometimes there are some differences that lead to some great discussion and maybe even some change. So that has been incredibly valuable. So I always encourage people on my campus, and I encourage you guys too, that if you have something that you're not sure, if it's something that should be brought to CFAC, ask anyway. You know, we can always ask each other, and if it is, then it could lead to something really big. So thank you.
And last, but I hope not least, I'm Theresa Thomas from Blue Ridge Community College, and I teach math over there. And you ever hear that? The squeaky wheel gets the grease? It's usually negative, but that's kind of what this is. If we keep bringing up issues that aren't getting resolved, or as they're changing, as we have the Chancellor's ear for, 2 whole days. And almost all these issues that we're bringing up here is, I need them at Blue Ridge too. There are issues at Blue Ridge too. Since I'm the last one to go, there's really a whole lot left. But the most valuable thing that I found from the last one is I'm always in the know with the math pathways, all that stuff. Patricia Parker comes and gives great presentations. Well, I'm in the know with that all the time on the college contact. But something I wasn't aware of was the multiple measures with the veterans that we've the new policy of that. And I found out about that at CFAC the last time, and I'm ready to, share that. And then as soon as I got back to campus, the same document came to me maybe a week later that we had passed around at CFAC. So, we get it a little bit sometimes before y'all do. So go to your CFAC member, because I will usually wait till Jen sends her wonderful minutes out to say this is what we did in Richmond, because it's so intense, and it's taking notes, and it really didn't happen that way, it happened this way, because Jen's notes are best. So just talk to your CFAC person if you have an issue, and even if it's not like Bethany said, they said it needs to kind of be, VCCS wide, but you don't know if it's VCCS wide unless you're asking about it. Office hours was an issue we just kind of hashed out to make sure, are we doing the same thing with office hours? Kind of, sort of, yeah, pretty much, but we didn't know that. So that was refreshing to me that we all kind of are following the VCCS policy on some of those things. So, Charlie, I guess it's back to you.
Well, just very quickly. I think you get an idea that these 10 individuals here and the 10 that couldn't make it to New Horizons are leaders of their own faculty at their own college, and for a good reason. And so when we get together, we accomplish an awful lot. And what's worked, I think, especially well is we've never adopted a them versus us. I mean, when we're at CFAC, you put your title and your ego at the door when you walk through. And we're all together to do one thing, and that's to help our students. And we've developed a collegial type of relationship. Not that the conversations can't be pretty intense, but always with respect and always with the idea that we're there for a reason. And so please, if you have not heard of CFAC, know who your representative is, and give us that information so that we can better represent you. So what I would like to do, and I think we've got about 15 minutes or so, is have you ask us questions, or maybe simply raise issues that you feel are important that you have not heard so far. And you can direct them to any one of us. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is LaToya Reynolds. I'm a faculty member at John Tyler Community College, and I think everybody's feeling the budget cuts, the enrollment decreases, the decrease in retention, and I just have a question as to the discussion of how that's going to affect the other issues that are on the list, because I know that in times of plenty, we have a one way of viewing things, and then in times of want and need, we have to view things a little bit differently and maybe think about things in a more efficient manner. So how has those budget issues affected some of the other major issues that you've presented in your CFAC slide.
Jen? Yeah.
I'll start. Alrighty. So one of the things I mentioned was the science workload. And so we talked specifically about that. Is this the time to bring this up? Because the colleges that are maxing out their science faculty, if we try to come up with some standard way of doing the credit load across the system and interpreting that policy, maybe it will err on the side of, you know, those who right now are doing 3 and 3, having to do a lot more. So we do consider those things. I think Charlie mentioned the family, you know, the parental policy. I don't think that, as he said, we may have to wear them down, but it's going to depend a lot on the budget concerns, because the way that the George Mason policy reads is it's still up to the discretion of the dean, the president, and a lot of what we do is going to be like the early retirement, phased-in retirement plan, still at the discretion of the president. So it's not going to necessarily across the board, you know, impact everybody, but having that option on the table is at least progress. So we do weigh the budget concerns as we talk about it, but I don't think that we're in the mindset of not bringing something up. We'd rather bring it up now and then 3 years from now make progress on that long-standing issue. Did you want to talk, Sharon?
You said that, yes, exactly about that.
There was a slight issue about a pay increase. We're getting a 3% pay increase. And there was a concern, well, how can you give a pay increase when you're riffing faculty? And we discussed that. That was a budget issue. And the position was that there just weren't students at these colleges to support these faculty, and that you could not let the existing faculty go year after year after year with no pay increase, because we want to keep the good people that are still here. But that was something that we kind of weighed. You know, why do you riff on the one hand and give a pay increase on the other? And that was explained to us a little bit more thoroughly.
And we didn't want budget to stop us from moving forward in things that are benefiting the faculty. And when the budget gets, we're still going to have the same issues we have now, that if we get better, that we'll have then. And we didn't want to make any decision that was related around, oh, we can't bring that up because we don't have the budget. So that it's out there on the table and for the good of the faculty, regardless of money.
I just wanted to make sure, are you referring to the lab hours of?
The mix of lab and lecture
Yes.
hours, yes. It's interpreted differently. It's interpreted differently at different colleges. And
Yes.
yes.
I'm nursing faculty, and we spoke last year, and I brought this topic up, and I had Brian bring it up with CFAC at a meeting last year, and we spoke about it in the HR meeting a while ago, and they assure us that meetings are going to occur. Is CFAC going to be represented at those meetings, and what's happening? Because there are faculty, nursing faculty, that are going to the hospital for 12 hours a day with students on their feet, passing meds, not in a laboratory setting, but in a hospital for 2 12-hour shifts a week, who are working 24 hours and the Monday and Tuesday, and then coming to the college and teaching and doing office hours and stuff, but they're not getting but half that credit, just like a lab person would. And there are other colleges who are getting credit. Like you said, it's an individual dean's choice.
I think Marty's going to talk about the science piece of it, and then maybe Ellen can talk about the nursing side, because you mentioned that at CFAC. Can I put you on the spot?
So we just want to know, or I want to know, are you all going to be represented at that meeting?
We have 2 representatives, Marty
I am.
and Karol. So the answer is yes, and so yes. The problem, and Jen expressed it so well, is we're worried about a consistent policy. We're worried that they're going to take the worst possible scenario and give us what we asked for. And so beware of what you ask for during difficult budget times. But we have to be part of the discussion, and Marty and Karol are on that
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't flip it on. It's on the very bottom. Sorry. Sorry, no.
I believe, however, there were supposed to be, I believe there were two, Marty and Karol were supposed to be on a committee, but the committee met, correct? Jen?
Yes.
The committee has already met, and the representatives were not included in that already, what happened,
Yeah.
what occurred already.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
Well, okay, this is not over yet. The only thing the committee did, it took them an entire year, this was ASAC. The only thing they did is they defined the terms. That's it. That's all they've done. They wrote out definitions for, well, we haven't even seen those, but they're supposed to take that up at the next ASAC meeting, and we have already said we're going to be there. Okay, and they can choose not to listen to us. I mean, that's always the option of because it's mostly vice presidents, and they may choose not to listen to us, but we're going to certainly tell them what we think. And if you don't treat people well, and particularly when you treat people at different places differently, and that word, it will get around, it's inevitable, then all you end up with is morale problems. If they want to fix that, okay, maybe some of us will end up with a heavier load than we had before, but if it's equitable across the whole system, we can deal with that if we have to.
But we were also told at that time that they looked at it and that it is an extremely complicated
Yeah.
situation, particularly between allied health and nursing.
Yes, that's how.
And the question is, will it be equitable? It's not easy to make it equitable.
How is it equitable to allow faculty to work and not get credit for the time they're working? How is that?
I'm not familiar with what that state was made in regard to, so I don't know how. I'm sure there are inequities, but it is also how clinical time is divided up and used in different programs benefits students in many ways. And to put something out there that we all have to go by may not be in the best interests of our students across the board. And I think that's what we're concerned about overall. Not that it isn't equitable and it shouldn't be for your nursing faculty, but it's used in many different ways, some administratively, some for clinical faculty to get paid, but we do it creatively too, and it's in very good interest for, in the best interest of our students, how a lot of us are using clinical time. So that's what we're concerned about, but we haven't been part of the discussion yet.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, because Karol, are you biology? So I think our two reps are on the science
Yes.
side and not allied health. So I think maybe we should put forth adding one of our reps in the allied health as well, so that we have 3 instead of just 2, so that we do have those concerns covered.
That's a big issue with nursing because some of the nursing faculty are getting 1-for-1 in clinicals, whereas, for example, our faculty would work 18 hours and get paid for 9, whereas you work 18, you get paid 18 at another school within the same system. And so that's the issue of equity about which we speak.
To piggyback on that issue a little bit, there's a huge inconsistency also in how the clinical faculty are being paid, whether they're being paid by the credit hour or being paid per hour. My clinical faculty right now are being paid, the adjunct faculty now are being paid per hour. There was a move to change that to credit hour, which would make my LTCA clinical faculty make $11 an hour. And that just couldn't happen. So there's lots of inconsistency across the board, not only in how many hours are earned or how many credits are earned per hour, but in how that individual is paid their base pay, whether it's per hour or per credit hour.
Meeting assigned, we have about 8 minutes left, but then they're going to stop filming, but we don't have to stop talking, after it's all over.
Hi. My question's about multiple measures. We're familiar with, we've just done the implementation of the GPA-based multiple measures placement, but you mentioned a veterans component. Can you explain that a little bit more, and also maybe talk about some of the additional support services that may need to be put in place, because we have already identified a lot of areas of concern with multiple measures placement.
Well, one of the things that, and someone else can address the rest of this, but one of the points that was made to us that we believe is that the United States military only takes 25% of those who apply to it. And so these are sort of the cream of the crop, and they are not coming out of the military ignorant. And so their skills are of value, and we are using those skills and the knowledge that they have to put them ahead of where they would be under, say, the VPT or something like that. So that is the idea behind it, that these veterans are highly trained, that they are the cream of the crop going in because the government's only taking a certain percentage of them, and that they are ready to go. That's the ideology behind it, as we were told.
I don't know what the multiple measures component for the veterans is. So does that mean if they're veterans, they are automatically placed into credit, or?
No, the document that we were given, and let me first and foremost say, if your CFAC rep is not sharing things with you, then you need to demand that they do that, because I type I type up 15 pages a minute. I scan in as a PDF every handout we receive, and that is shared and blasted with all the CFAC reps. And then their job is to trickle that to all their faculty members at the college. So the policy that we got, which I haven't scanned in yet because we just met in it last week, but your rep will be getting this to you, is just it's a pilot study. So it's only being done at a handful of colleges right now. It's not going to be rolled out until I think 2018 or 2019 once they see how effective it is. But there is a one-page document that outlines what the standards are for this optional placement. And basically it's saying anybody who was a career serviceman probably does not need to take a placement test to show college readiness. And so it has, in black and white, what the parameters are for that. But it is not phased in system-wide yet. It is just a pilot study. And when it is implemented system-wide, everybody should know about it. But you will get this document. Is it Ellen? Who's your rep? I know Ellen will give it to you. So you'll get this as a PDF, and you can read all about it yourself. But we're supposed to be the conduit. And if your CFAC rep is not sharing things with you, then you need to advocate for another CFAC rep.
Hi, I just want to get clarification on an issue. Does this, does CFAC represent professional faculty as well? No. So is there a body that represents professional faculty in the VCCS? Okay, so I would like for you guys to take that up if you don't mind. At least talk about it.
So I do want to thank you for your work on the faculty evaluation and the training that you prepared. I think we have seen some changes. We've got somewhere to go. And I think what I'd like to see and what has come up through our Senate is that that training that we keep, so that we don't have, when new deans come on board, the current deans training them, that they get trained by the VCCS training. So any way that we can continue to get that out there and encourage that, and I know there's a video out there and I know we have that, but anyway, that I think that was really valuable work, and we should continue to make sure that that is the best practice training that every new dean receives.
Yes, CFAC was not happy with the initial evaluation policy because deans were not really implementing it the way it had been intended. And so I think it was 3 summers ago, CFAC initiative, we brought 100 deans to Richmond and we did an all-day seminar on best practices, and it went very well, and we videoed it, and that's there for new deans to look at. And we also changed some policy. The VCCS policy used initially that the default was does not meet expectations. What that meant is that when you were up for an evaluation with your dean, it was expected that you were not meeting expectations unless you proved that you were. We felt it was the reverse. The dean should feel that you are meeting expectations, and the burden of proof, which was another term that we got out of the policy, would be on the backs of the administration and not the faculty member. And so CFAC very effectively got that out of VCCS policy. And then we did our very best to train the deans so that they realized that the concept was that there should be less work for them and not more work. Under the old system that many of you will remember, everyone was evaluated every year. Now, you're only evaluated formally at the end of your multi-year contract. And the only ones that are evaluated every year are those faculty on their first 3 one-year contracts. That ideally should save time for the deans. But a lot of the deans were looking at the faculty evaluation, and I think there was something like 90 bullet points, and they felt they had to address each one of the 90 bullet points, and that was never the intention. One faculty member at Nova, one of the bullet points said that you had to hand out a syllabus, so he had one of his students photograph him handing out a syllabus. I mean, life's too short for that. That's not what we intended. And so you're right, with new deans coming on board, we need to continue to train to make sure the policy is being implemented effectively.
Talking point. We had that on our issue, and we specifically asked the Chancellor and his staff what was happening with new deans, because at Lord Fairfax, faculty, all the direct reports for us have flipped over in the past 3 years. We all have new deans. So we were told that COD was organizing, COD is the deans and directors, that they were organizing a training session for the fall, and at least 20 new deans were going to go through this, which was going to be kind of a general orientation, but it would include the best practices document that we had and talk about interpreting that. I'm not certain. I feel like if we have 4 new deans, that there are probably more than 20 new deans across the VCCS. So I'm not certain how that's going to trickle down to all the new hires, but that was a question that we asked.
I'd just like to add to that. This is a second career for me. I had 23 years in the Air Force before I came here. Very different environment. But my take on the dean is, if your dean doesn't know whether you meet standards when it comes time to be evaluated, you need to go shopping for a new dean. That's their job, is to know what their faculty are doing. And if they don't already know that when it's time for you to be evaluated, then they're not doing it. Now, that won't go very far probably in some other circles, but that's my view of how that should be. And I think I would like to see us as CFAC put out a statement that is similar to what Charlie gives at the new the new faculty orientation, because our deans are not following that at all. Well, I guess one of them is, but for the most part, they're not following that. And we need to reinforce that, because again, if you don't trust your boss, things are bad.